Andrew has a great
I got
question. Is it a disgrace for Florida if they lose to Utah, or is it a respectable loss since they are number 7? It's 100% a respectable loss. Now, how they lose and how bad, that's where I think that's where the vary comes in. If it's a 21 blowout, that could be brutal. A 14-point loss, depending on how that, like if it's like a 7-point game and like a pick six happens at the end and it's a 14-point loss, that's not an embarrassing loss, right? Like things like that happen. 10-point loss, anything under 14, I feel like is a respectable loss. Unless maybe Utah kind of like goes up 14-0 and never really looks back and they just keep that 14 deficit in the entire game and control the game. But again, it's a loss is losing to a team is never disrespectful unless like you lose like a Vandy or like a Mizzou or Florida State, right? Even a 1-point loss to those teams would be a little disrespectful. But losing to a number 7 ranked team who is potentially a playoff team because of how their schedule plays out is never going to be a disgrace, in my opinion, especially with where Florida is coming from. We can't look. I know I kind of disrespected on Utah a little bit, but we have to have respect for these guys. I mean, they had a pretty solid season last year. I'd say a great season last year in a sense of Utah, and coming in this year ranked number 7, and Florida is coming off of the dumpster fire of the year last year. Expectations have to be reasonable here. So,
yeah, and you're talking about a new year, a first year head coach. The very first game that they're all coaching as a staff, you can try to mimic things as best as possible. You can scrimmage things as best as possible, but not even from the talent that you have on the field. Is just the game day operations that it just takes to kind of go into how's the communication from the booth to the sideline and things like that. I know that these are intangibles and they feel a little bit off, but those are the things that a tenured head coach, especially who's been with the school, his assistants have been with him for a while. These are the things that they don't have to iron out, right? So they're less worried about those little wrinkles on the game day operations than they are potentially the playbook and how are we sizing up and how are we adjusting to what the other team is doing. Again, not saying that I don't believe that Napier's already thought of these things, but it's just one extra element. So look, Utah, no one's taking anything away from them. They played a great season last year. No one doubts that they're another great season away. Good team. We obviously want to see that Florida has that first win under their belt. Once it comes down to it, in the game's over. But I could see where like some Utah fans are very, very confident going in.
for sure.